In today's video, we are talking about none other than Chanel, which should be of no surprise to many of you out there that have been watching my channel for some time now. You'll of course know that Chanel is my all-time favorite luxury fashion house, and it has been for many, many years. It's a love that has been passed down from my mum, fast forward to now. I've been a sucker for their accessories, their shoes, and of course their bags. One of the instigators of this video actually is a question that I've had in the past around my bag collection, and I thought I would make it into a short video today, just in case some of you were also wondering the same thing. And you know, as you can see behind me in my bag collection, which I have talked about in previous bag collection videos, I have obviously not gotten a classic Chanel flap. And for those of you out there who are a little bit newer to Chanel or to luxury in general, the classic flap, I would say, is Chanel's most iconic bag that they've ever produced. Even though it's not one of its oldest, actually, that would be, you know, the 2.55 or the reissue as it's known. Whenever I think Chanel, I always think of the classic flap in terms of bags. I'm sure many of you out there do as well. And it's, to me anyway, when I look on forums and when I go on YouTube, etc., when anyone has Chanel in their collection, it usually comprises of a classic flap. And so based on that and my love of Chanel thus far and the fact I haven't added one yet, I wanted to make a video about the 5 reasons why I haven't and probably won't add a Chanel classic flap to my collection. So I will start off the 5 reasons with reason number 1, which should be of no surprise to many of you out there. It was certainly the hot topic of the year for the luxury community, and that's because of price and the crazy price hikes that we are seeing. And that's not just Chanel being the culprit, we're seeing it across other luxury fashion houses as well, namely Hermes and Louis Vuitton. But I think Chanel's price increases and just its prices in general, I think it's one of the biggest turn-offs for me on the classic flap. And, you know, we can talk about heritage, design, how great an investment Chanel classic flaps are in general. To me, the extortionate price increases to wear a classic flap now, I think a jumbo is about £6,000, £6,500 in the UK. That is basically, and I've said this in a previous Chanel price increase video that I released this year, it's basically the price of a car, or, you know, it would form a small portion of a deposit for a mortgage or something. And I can think of so many other ways to spend £6,000. But to me, if the quality of the Chanel bags, namely the classic flaps being something that's brought up quite a lot in terms of quality control, if that doesn't necessarily increase, then how on earth are you able to justify spending £6,000 on something that probably cost less than £100 to make, if we're being quite honest? The status symbol, if we're being really real here, of buying Chanel, that's what you're paying for. And so, to me anyway, when I look at my current collection and how much of a bargain price I managed to get each of them for, I really just can't see myself paying essentially almost double what I paid for them initially. Paying £6,000 and above for a bag, which, you know, realistically, I already have many bags, not just Chanel either. We're in a pandemic, you know, where are we going with these new bags, you could say. And then just the fact that the quality just isn't necessarily there to justify that price. To me, it's a big deterrent as to why, just for the status symbol of getting the classic and flagship item at Chanel, it just doesn't seem worth it at this stage. I want to use my Chanel boy bag as an example, because I think the pricing that is, I guess, justified by Chanel for the classic flap is only because it's iconic and it's had a lot of heritage. But in reality, there are so many other Chanel bags which are also getting classic status, like the boy bag, I feel. I actually bought this about 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago now. Time certainly does fly, and so does inflation, it seems, because I bought this bag at Heathrow Airport. I want to say approximately £2,700. And that was with a discount of, I think, up to 20% VAT. So it was originally priced at about 3,000. At the time, I remember the boy bag was so big, it was just getting big actually. I think they only released it in like 2011 or something like that. And it's gained in popularity since, and that's why I feel like it's gotten more classic. Now, fast forward, 4 years, this bag is almost on par with the classic flap prices. This is now, I think, $4,000. If you think about now classic flaps, which this would essentially be almost the same size as a jumbo, to pay $6,000 for something which is essentially the same size, similar in colorways and style, but just with, you know, a double flap and that status symbol, doesn't make sense to me. And, you know, very soon, you know, you're going to get things like the Chanel Trendy. Maybe some other bags behind me are also classic as well. Those are all bags that are gaining in popularity and becoming very classic. They are also very, very affordable in comparison to the classic flap. They are very fair in terms of the amount of bag that you get for your money. For example, my latest purchase and the bag that I've been using so much recently is the Coco handle in the medium size. I got this for the same price nowadays, actually, as I got the boy bag back in the day. And it's much more affordable if you want to get Chanel. And I feel like the price increases are also fair and a lot more measured compared to the crazy up to 20% price increases year on year for the classic flap. Second reason then is one that I guess is a bit more subjective, but I have seen online some people have also shared this sentiment, and that is about the design and look. There's no denying objectively that it's a good looking bag. I find the classic flap looks a bit too mature. If styled correctly, I think it can look very, very classy, but I feel like most of the times it's very formal, and I like to think that my bags are an extension of my personality. I think it's something that would age me a little bit. I feel like the other bags that I have are a little bit more fun and are also classic looking. For example, I think, you know, some of you guys might point out, you know, I have a Chanel Mini. This is a classic flap style and look, of course, but the fundamental difference with this is that this is an oil slick kind of material. It's in this beautiful, as you can see, like a purpley pink color. I think it's so modern. It's such a nice take on a classic bag. Also, it's a mini, so it can go crossbody. It doesn't look super formal. And even if I was to get the classic flap, I feel like, and this is linking to my reason number 3, I don't think I would do it justice in the functionality and the practicality of the bag. Its well-known feature is, of course, having the double flap inside. And I feel for functionality reasons, and a lot of people have mentioned this who actually own the bag, as a con, is that it takes up a lot of room. You could get a Chanel small flap, and that has a double flap. But you could get the mini and it actually fits the same amount of stuff because you don't have something that essentially takes up a lot of internal space. And, you know, the double flap is only really functional to put some letters or maybe your change in between the gaps. That is, you know, for heritage reasons as well. I think it was about like Coco Chanel storing her love letters inside the gap. There's no need to do that. For me personally, there are pockets everywhere. I'd much rather have the space. And so for me, functionality above the fashion. And with the classic flap, I think it's only a bag that you can kind of wear on your shoulder, really. You can't really do it crossbody. It kind of sits, from what I've seen from other content creators, sits kind of funny, sits up onto your bust. It doesn't look the greatest. And considering that I am somebody who is on the go a lot of the time, wants to be hands-free, I have a lot of crossbody bags or bags that you can have multiple options and different ways to wear. My other bags fulfill that need for me. Moving on to reason number 4 now, and that is accessibility. And what I mean by accessibility is basically how easy it is to get your hands on a classic flap. Now, contrary to other luxury fashion houses like Hermes, where you have to be offered a bag and it's incredibly hard to get, with Chanel, I feel like it's a little bit easier if you were to, say, be a blank slate customer to walk into a Chanel store, and theoretically, if you have the money, you'd be able to get your hands on that bag. It is constantly made. Although it's in small quantities, you will always know that, you know, it's been a bag that has been made for decades now. It will continue to be. It's constantly increasing in value. And because of that, they will constantly have a demand for these types of bags. You see it on celebrities as well. They then produce these bags, etc. And the cycle continues. And so it's quite a safe bet then to assume that you would be able to get your hands on a classic flap at any point in the year, really, because they're always going to be made. And so that's a really good thing, that you're going to be able to access that bag. If you're saving for that bag and you really, really want it, then you're safe in the knowledge that you will still be able to tomorrow, the day after, year after, be able to get your hands on that bag. And also in the same vein, know that you'll be able to shift that bag. The con is, I guess, that because it's so accessible, I've never found a desire really to get it. I'm much more preoccupied with buying a bag that is maybe in a really unique colorway or style, like my iridescent mini, or, you know, bags that I know are going to be classic and I think they're a safe investment, like my boy bag. I would say then that, you know, with all the reasons that I've just talked about, and then you add on the fact that the classic flap is just always going to be there, I've then therefore never felt the urge to buy it in urgency. It would have to be in a colorway, design, or material that is so different, so unique, and so rare to get in limited edition. That would be the only way I would imagine that I would buy it, because that one is less accessible. It's probably going to have better, for some of you out there, you might be thinking better resale, better longevity, and also something that's just a bit more unique. And so now on to reason number 5 why I won't be buying a Chanel classic flap, and that is the hype. And I think the hype is a point that neatly wraps all of these reasons into a bow. And I think it's probably to do with, you know, Instagram influencers and a lot of the luxury lovers I also follow, and, you know, the celeb culture and things like that. Probably also to do with the price increases, creating that almost hysteria and even more reinforcing the status symbol of owning a bag. It's almost so oversaturated and overhyped that it's almost cooler not to have a Chanel classic flap. At least not in the traditional sense anyway. You know, I did talk about, you know, if they did make a swanky new colorway or different materials, like the kind of oil slick mini that I was talking about, maybe I would consider it. But at this moment in time, and from the many collections that have been released, there's just nothing that really wows me enough about the classic flap, especially considering the hype that surrounds it constantly, that makes me really feel that compelled to get it. And that's not to say that I would rule off buying, for example, a classic flap that was potentially vintage from my year of birth or something. Then there's kind of a more nostalgic point around it as well. Also, the quality of those vintage bags would probably be a lot better. At least it's what I hear from some of the videos and people that I've spoken to about this, that the quality of bags back then, you know, it was actually gold plated as opposed to, you know, basically imitation at the moment. The vintage option is something that I could feasibly get into, but because of the hype surrounding it at the moment, I'm kind of waiting for that to die down a little bit before I look into vintage. I feel like a lot of people are probably doing the same thing as me, especially given that the quality of bags currently is not exactly going up. But as for now, and, you know, with those 5 reasons considered, it's not something that I'm looking to add into my collection. You know, I just wanted to share my thoughts with you guys, just to see if I'm the only one that's thinking this or not, because I feel like a lot of people are probably at a crossroads right now as to whether they continue supporting Chanel or not, because of these price increases, because of the quality issues that have arisen recently. At the moment, I'm kind of looking for different bags, and I can see myself buying the new classics. And I think that's an apt way of describing my current collection, as well as my bag collection in general. It's new classics, it's a different take and a different spin on iconic silhouettes. If Chanel classic flaps manage to pique my interest in the future, then I will eat my words. But until that point, my 5 reasons still very much stand, and I would love to hear your thoughts about it in the comments below. So that is everything I wanted to cover today. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you in my next one.